Hello, my TheSuffolkRam for nerds. Welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 11, Episode 2, The Ghost Monument. There will be some minor spoilers ahead, so if you don't want things spoiled, please turn off now. So the episode kicks off with the Doctor and companions where they left off last week, which was floating in space, which is not a great place to be. So they're floating around space, and fortunately for both sets, they get rescued, which, as we know from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, is a very improbable thing to happen. But they get rescued. Doctor and Yasmin get rescued by this guy called Epso, and Graham and Ryan get rescued by this lady called, and I've got her name written down, Angstrom. And they're both on ships, they're both heading towards a planet, and they're talking about other people who they're looking for and wondering where they are. It's clear something's going on, there's more of them heading towards this planet than should be, but it's not made really clear straight away. Eventually, though, they both end up on the planet, one via landing, one via means, and they head down, they start exploring the planet. Pretty shortly after getting there, they come across a tent in the middle of the desert, and they meet the main guy there, and they speak to him. And he basically reveals that, actually, in fact, these two pilots are involved in a rally, and this is the final stage. They have to race across this very hostile planet to a thing called the Ghost Monument, and that's going to then basically whoever gets there wins. The loser gets left behind, and they, well, presumably die very quickly on this hostile planet. So Doctor and companions, they're stranded, they have no way to get off, so their only real choice is to follow these people and see where they're heading. They have other reasons to get there, that's a bit of a spoiler, so I won't say why, but long as they have a reason to go to the same direction these other guys are. And they head there. And of course, on the way, they find themselves up against the planet's hazards, and they're pretty darn nice. This planet's not a nice place to be. Lots of nasty things on there. You've got, there's enemies everywhere. There's enemies in the air, in the water, and there's enemies, more physical enemies as well. And they have to basically navigate, and the story about them navigating through to get to their conclusion and escaping. It's a pretty decent. It's actually, I really actually tell it. No, it wasn't decent. It was very good. A very excellent sort of story. It's not about saving the world. It's not about trying to solve cryptids. It's just a very basic, simple story. We want to get here. We have a reason to get here, and it works. I thought it worked very well. The people you encounter through it are sort of the general sort of. There's no major twistle story. It's just quite straightforward, simple story, and it's a nice little palate cleanse, presumably for all more heavier things coming up. There is some hints dropped later on about what's going to potentially be the arc for the season. I won't go into too much detail for that. But yeah, overall, a very interesting, very enjoyable tale. Quite liked it. Really liked it. So on to our characters. So Jodie Whittaker is still wearing well as a Doctor. Still can't get my finger on her characterisation. I don't quite place it. I haven't quite worked out how she's different from things. She's definitely got more of a. I don't want to. It's not the right word I really want to use. Almost like sort of a mothery, big sistery feel to the way she does it. That's not quite how I would like to describe it, but it's the best sort of phrasing I can pull out to the at the moment. But the way she deals with her and sort of takes them and the way she thinks, and also using her lightning wit and intelligence to get through as a Doctor, works very well. It's nice to have a big group of companions again, with Graham, Ryan and Yasmin there. It's nice how I prefer when you've got big groups. I've never been keen actually on Doctor Who when it's just the Doctor and one other companion, because inevitably what ends up happening is they have to write in a third character to then become the companion to either the Doctor or to the companion there. And so they don't write in a third character anyway, so you might as well have one go right through. I always thought Doctor Who better when you had groups, because they can split off and they can do their own thing, and you get to see their dynamics, and they work well. They do bounce well off each other. I'm still not entirely convinced by Ryan's actor. He has his moments, but occasionally he comes across a little bit. I felt a little bit wooden occasionally, but overall he's pretty good. And he's got his very humorous moments. There's one scene later on where he decides to try and use some knowledge he's got in his real life that he does day to day, which he thinks might be applicable in that situation, when anyone who actually thought about it knows it clearly isn't, and ends up making a little bit of a fool of himself. That was quite a funny scene, and I quite enjoyed it. You also got the other two characters, which are the two pilots. You've got Armstrong, who's played by Susan Lynch, and you've also got Epso, played by Sean Dooley. And their sort of dynamic is, they sort of bounce off each other. One, they are a bit stereotyped. I felt the character of the pilots were pretty obvious. You knew what you're getting to. They're what you'd expect from two sort of pilots sort of fighting to the end of a race. The one sort of fairly nice, softy person. The other one's a little bit more of an aggressive, but actually that's a bit of a front type personality, which I thought was a bit obvious. And they did sort of build their depths, their character a bit more. Armstrong got a lot more characterisation than Epso, who I felt was very, very two-dimensional. Didn't have a lot to him, but it had some sort of nice moments. He had his moments, and it worked and it wasn't totally. They didn't totally fandise him to one specific type of character, which I thought again worked quite nicely. So generally speaking, the characters were pretty good. Wasn't so keen on Epso. So on to production of the episode. Well, let's kick off with the main thing from the start. The new title sequence. We didn't see it last week. We got to see it this week. And I think it's absolutely awesome. It has a real old-fashioned style Doctor Who about it. It's definitely got sort of, even sort of early 60s, like William Hartnell, Pat Troughton sort of overtones to it, which worked really well. And I love it. I love the new style. I love the way it's... Whereas Peter Capaldi is all about seemed very much about sort of clockworks and so forth, very sort of linked together. This is a lot more of an organic style to it, with a lot of movement and sort of splashing about. And yeah, I liked it. It looked I really thought it was great, and I'm loving the music in it as well. The actual planet itself, somewhere sandy. We've seen lots of sandy sets. I mean, it's the old joke of everything shot in a quarry. This probably wasn't shot on a quarry, probably shot on a beach somewhere, but it worked. The actual sort of style, which I felt was very sort of Arabian style, sort of sets and so forth, seemed to fit fairly well. The monsters in it that we encounter, to be honest, I didn't find particularly creepy or threatening. Without spoiling too much, you've got one which is a generic sort of humanoid creature, and they look quite creepy. In certain scenes they look quite creepy, mainly when on the cameras, but when you actually see them in the flesh doing stuff, they're nothing particularly special about them. The other enemies are, well, basically cloth, for the best word, and it's hard to be threatened by a bit of cloth, no matter how sort of creepy it is. It does sort of strike back a little bit when I watched how this sort of innocuous object becoming deadly sort of struck back to me, how it made me think of sort of the Autons, and things like Terror of the Autons, where sort of everyday objects came alive and killed people. It sort of made me think of that when I saw it. But you know, actual fact, it didn't actually impact it too much. They were different. I'll give it that. They're definitely different, but probably the weakest part of the episode. But overall, quite enjoyable romp. I thought there weren't much to do with mainstream graphics apart from sort of the monsters and so forth. I thought the spaceships looked quite neat as well. And I like the overall sort of styling of the episode and storyline as well, worked quite neatly as well. So final thoughts, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It's definitely a nice strong beginner to the season, and definitely follows on nicely from the last part. I like the way how it's sort of like linked together and actually sort of built up nicely across this last episode. Doctor getting back in sort of be able to travel again as she was. It's sort of building up really nicely. So yeah, really enjoy this episode. Definitely. Well, I don't give really like marks out of 10, but if I did, this would be a high number. Yeah, very good episode. Really enjoyed it. So that's been my review. Thank you for watching up in the Suffolk-Ram. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel. We also do things such as live streams and podcasts on here as well. Other bits and pieces on here occasionally as well. So if you'd like to, please just subscribe and join us on some of our various other things we do on here as well. That'd be great. So next week we get to meet Rosa Parks, one of the sort of main, a big part of what was the civil rights movement in America. So that's going to be interesting to see and how they pull it off, and hopefully pull off a relatively sensitive, because you are dealing with a fairly important person and you want to make sure she's portrayed well. But yeah, we'll look forward to next week. So for me, TheSuffolkRam, I look forward to seeing you next week. Goodbye.